for 1 second, that's all.
Recording.
calls with Debbie and hearing so many beautiful things. I'm not going to get into detail in many areas of David's life because for Rabbi David, we have Roy and other people that will give eulogies in detail. But I did want to share that having known Rabbi David and Debbie all the way back from Rabbi Doberman, when they were together, bless us with beautiful piano playing and melodies and singing, and really bring the level of spirituality higher in the synagogue with Rabbi Doberman, as well as the work that Rabbi David did at the new synagogue of Long Island, working in that interfaith community, as well as in starting the first interfaith synagogue in Manhattan. All that is absolutely amazing, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't pull a little bit of the Kabbalistic from Rabbi Doberman to shed a little insight from a Hebrew, a Kabbalistic perspective on David's life. So there's a tradition. If you take the Torah, which is broken down into 54 parts, so every week has one or maybe two portions. You look at the Torah portion when somebody is born. You look at the Torah portion when somebody transcends. If they connect in the meaning or complete the beginning of the meaning of the other one, it's as if God is saying you completed what your neshama, what your soul came to do. So, Rabbi David was born under the Torah portion of Vayera, which means I appeared. The I is God. God appeared to Moses. And then the plagues started in Egypt, bringing freedom to the people. The Torah portion Rabbi David transcended under is Re'eh, which means to see. And this is where God places the freedom of choosing, either choose wisely and choose good, or we don't choose good and we get the consequences. But it's the freedom of choice. So it's the higher level of freedom, not where God brings the miracles, but where we choose to walk in that freedom. And so if you take the names, it means I appeared and then you saw. So they complete one another. So it's very auspicious, and that's why I wanted to share that with you, because it's a very beautiful message from the Torah about Rabbi David's life. So a beautiful reading that Debbie asked that we do is from Job. In his sorrow, Job cried out, God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. In ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of the shadows. The shadow of death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the same centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in David's life, we offer the deepest thanks from our hearts. God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and we acknowledge your love. And then we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach, which is blessed be the name of God now and forever. In David's soul, and his soul is eternal, and we were talking about that before we came in. And in our tradition, David's soul is Neshama, being eternal, is here with us, knows how you feel, knows you're here showing support and love for him and for one another. And his Neshama, his soul, is very generous. A light that brought joy to so many with his multifaceted life. His innate gift of performing, being able to read the audience, know where to go with the tunes, the music, the melodies, and knowing just that right song that made you want to join in with him and with each other every time. His encyclopedic knowledge of music, history, and politics, and his insatiable thirst for learning more about everything made him the perfect teacher for young and old. His compassion for others was unending, dropping everything at a moment's notice to come and help wherever and whoever was needed. In closing, in my sharing, 2 words come to mind: love and kindness. But I like it a little more in the Hebrew, the chesed or the ahava. And why I like the idea of the ahava. And hesed doesn't just mean kindness, it's love and kindness, it's deeper caring, not just all being nice, but really caring from deep down within and sharing and giving from within. So chesed feels better. And then ahava means love. But love in English can sound like an emotion. Ahava in Hebrew, the root word is ha. Give, to give. When we love, we give. And David, Rabbi David, in his loving, he gave love from himself. And that to me sums up. With that, I would like to invite people to turn in your booklets and the program. I want to read this bunch, but we're not going to make things. Yeah, it's Ecclesiastes. I just have a different version of it. And if we could all read this together. Do everything there is to see them. The time for every purpose, for everything. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to last, a time to love and planting, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away from, and a time to gather from. A time to break, and a time to refrain from grace. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to forget, a time to pay, a time to go, a time to be, a time to love, the gate, a time to thank you. And now I would like to open up what is called Chesed, the time for sharing. And first, I would like to offer for Debbie to come up and share anything.
The first thing I just want to say, oh my goodness, for all the people. I just want to say thank you so much for coming and all the calls that we received. I met David when I auditioned for him. I got the big job for 37 years. And I was so lucky. And he was just he had a big heart. And he loved everybody that he worked with. And a lot of you are in this room that he worked with. The kids, and the people from the Heights Players, and Roy, and Kara, and Jenny, and Ian. I mean, it's hard, and I'm going to miss him so much. But I really just wanted to say thank you. And I'm going to leave it up to you.
I would like to invite Roy to your help.
Let's start at the very beginning. I met David 30 years ago. One, tonic. Who do you remember hearing David play piano for a big happy crowd? There's absolutely nothing like it. Kara and I met David and Debbie doing just that. They were performing Gilbert and Sullivan. They heard Kara sing, and perhaps sensing in Kara a bit of theatricality, said, "We'd like to do a cabaret." And Kara said, "I don't really know how to do that." And David got that kind of smile on his face. Let me show you. And the rest is history. 2 years later, Kara performed a 70-minute show filled with original material, written, coached, arranged, and accompanied by David, directed by Debbie. David's creativity was, as always, remarkable and original. Part of the show was the song, "They Say It's Wonderful." Now, David loved doing medleys, so the obvious pick for "They Say It's Wonderful" might be "It's a Wonderful World," something wonderful, the obvious pick. But David had something far more subtle and clever, but beautiful. So the medley was wonderful / beautiful. It's close, but just far enough away to be really interesting. Witchcraft. It's the obvious choice for witchcraft. You wish. It's the first one that comes to mind. But David came up with Old Black Magic. Yeah, just close, but together. Think about the word. It's brilliant. He wanted to work me into the show, playing the violin. Now, most music directors would go with the obvious song about violin playing, sung by a soprano. Anyone want to guess what that one was? Come on, you musical theater people. Thank you. That is violin. Martha Jefferson, a beautiful red. There we go. There it is. So that was easy. But David thought it needed more than that. So he came up with, "He plays those Broadway shows. I hear them and anything goes," etc. Now that was particularly arch because not only was that exactly as you heard a moment ago, how Debbie and David met, it's exactly the same how I met Kara. I also mentioned. So there was several levels of meaning in that. So it was brilliance and subtlety as always. His humor was infectious. His laughter, as we all remember, and we always remember, filled the room. His piano playing, not just extraordinarily adept in multiple styles, often combined with great singing, was replete with the same delicious wit. Perhaps most unforgettable for me will be his famous tradition from fiddler. Always unique, every time, always improvised, always highly personal and meaningful, just like David. It was not coincidence that this most Jewish musicals was perhaps David's favorite. 2, super topic. Religion, foundational aspect of David's life. Without question, he would have been a great rabbi if that was his sole pursuit. But he proceeded far down that path when young. His knowledge was encyclopedic, but not just of Jewish liturgy, history, ritual, and analysis. He knew just as much about Christianity, and he could easily have subbed at a moment's notice at any church in Manhattan. In the inclusive, accepting, non-judgmental spirit that he approached his faith, he was an ordained interfaith officiant, and with grace, intelligence, and of course music, wherever appropriate, helped hundreds through happy and sad life cycles. To me, however, it was behind the piano that David warmed more hearts, soothed more souls, healed more wounds. David was late night musical spiritual minister for a congregation that, a little bit like the Gamblers in Guys and Dolls, didn't get going until very late in the evening. But instead of shooting craps, these men, and they were mostly men, preferred singing about shooting craps. Mediant. Midnight, a Marie's Crisis in the 1990s. Like New York itself, this tiny smoke-filled basement piano bar stinking of cheap beer had a poignancy and sadness that has been smoothed over and polished today. The 80s decimated close-knit crew who men who came to laugh, drink, and most of all, to sing. From the 80s into the early 90s, one by one, many of the regulars were lost at seas in the period before effective treatments. Songs became nourishing manna. David was at the heart of it. Queen of the Night mashed up with Leader of the Pack, by the diva, Albert, sung by a 6 foot tall drag queen in the high D. I did a high act, but I right? Yeah, sometimes. One number two. Totally on it every time. Yeah, that's how I remember. But how do you take a tap dance break on Lullaby Broadway as a piano player? You stop playing, take 2/4 of your tip jar. I remember this was a long time ago. And you have instant tap to. The beltier, the schmaltzier, the more emotional the song, the more people laughed and cried. And remember the ones who were gone, including some of David and Debbie's closest friends. David built a camaraderie, a community that became a musical family to people who had none. Someone from Columbia University wrote a thesis on this extraordinary moment when, like Don Quixote, show tunes became a lance, or maybe a lancet. They literally sang and laughed in the face of death. David composed dead songs to commemorate and memorialize famous people. The more loved and revered they were, the more brutal the song. Here's how it went. Piano. Cue opening from Sound of Music. Vocal. David Schaefer. The hills are alive, unlike Mary Martin. Audience screams and shouts at that point in unison. She's dead. Clarity. And by the way, I wrote that one. The real ones, Steve, recalled a few of them. You have to give me and him a few drinks to hear the real ones. I would not dare. Seriously. That's trust me. I'm not going to need to. Yeah. To say you had to be there doesn't quite do it justice. I was a 27-year-old straight guy from Long Island, and I knew I was witnessing something profound, something crazy, something beautiful. Behind the piano, David was shrink, pastor, heartthrob, bouncer, tumbler, and at the end of the night, playing for lots of kids. And home to Debbie, who by her very existence broke the hearts of so many men in the piano bar. I watched it. 4, subdominant. Family is everything to David. First and foremost, the light of his life. From the first moment he saw her 37 years ago, his muse, his true love. David's devotion and love for Debbie were unmatched. His pride in her accomplishments, his appreciation for her enormous heart, his admiration of her magical smile, and her talent were iconic. The lights of Manhattan are dimmer without the brightness of their smiles back at each other. David became part of Debbie's really, really big and really, really unusual family, and brought his love and big heart and generosity to them wherever they needed help. To his parents, he was a loving and attentive son, caring for them, visiting them often, making sure that their needs were met, even when it took great sacrifice to make sure that that was true. For his brother Bruce as well, David's friendship and generosity led them to a bond that will persist in memory, something that his parents undoubtedly valued enormously. 5, dominance. So many more people were part of David's family. David was like a father to me, is a refrain I heard over and over this week and for years. And he really was, in the best way. Like the best fathers, he was a source of inspiration, learning, solidity, and support. To kids, to the elderly, for whom we performed regularly and assiduously. For the sick, for the sad. The world became David's family through his music, his singing, his religious devotion and inspiration, his teaching, and extraordinary empathy. He made everyone feel like a son, a daughter, a sister, a brother. Debbie said to me this week, Roy, he thought of you as a brother. I said, I thought the same. I'm very proud of him that he thought that of me. I know I was not alone. More personally, David gave profound gifts, not just to me and Kara, but our two children, Ian and Gabrielle. He was Ian and Gabrielle's first piano teacher. More than that, though, as they have grown, he and Debbie too became friends, constant holiday table guests, and nothing less than extended family members. Musically, it's no coincidence that Ian and Gabrielle grew up to be fine musicians with the ability to create, improvise, and control a crowd. They learn from the best. And Jenny and I know that our three little kids have turned into the consummate performers they are, because they've been to so many parties with David at the piano, singing, making the crowd feel incredible, showing how it's done. Jenny and I will never forget, in particular, our incredible wedding weekend. David music directed a 4-hour variety show with all our friends performing, and followed it up the next night with the 2 a.m. piano bar show when the entire wedding party and the band got stuck because of an ice storm. Now, let's not forget the decades of fun with David running Debbie's work family at Argentina Opera, notably including several piano performances on a pitching post. 6. Sub-80s. Lately, David has been turning his attention to serious composition. The symphony lies unfinished. Chamber piece. We hope to hear them next year. And of course, his busy teaching schedule continued. Hundreds of piano and vocal students of all ages and skill levels, from beginners to professionals, grew from David's tutelage. Part of the reason was David's commitment to quality and technique. This was not just evident in his outstanding piano playing. You know, he was a clarinetist. I even remember him playing saxophone a few times. That clarinet skill came in handy about 25 years ago. It's just one example of the good deed David has done. I had a friend, he's sitting back there. David, Curtis trained former conductor and clarinetist, but this gentleman had been out of music for many years. Kara and I were having a party where David Schaefer would be playing. So I had an idea. I said, hey, David Schaefer, would you mind bringing your clarinet to a party? You know, I wouldn't ask that of anybody. You bring your great instrument to a party of some random person that he's never met before. He has no idea if this guy can play or not. Put it in his mouth and just play. But David said, sure. I remember this. He just said, sure. There wasn't even a moment's hesitation. Well, this guy playing fiddler on the roof and improvising solos for fiddler and all different stuff that we played that night. Klezmer, we played also. I remember it. He had such a good time, he decided to play music again. And 25 years on, he now conducts the most successful non-professional orchestra in New York, having performed in Carnegie Hall, Geffen Hall many times, and having many professional conductors. So just a special thank you from, I know you'll say this too, from Maestro David Bernard to Maestro David Schaefer. I don't think there's a person here who can't tell a story like that. And David didn't just try to help. He would make sure that, like everything he did, it was done properly. 7, leading tone. Timing, lyrical scan, metrical accuracy, harmonic precision. Getting things right is very important to David. While he was incredibly generous, always supportive, readily accepting for those who were able to meet them, his standards were exceptionally high. I remember once showing him a quartet worth of interlocking parody lyrics I'd written. I was very proud of them. He said, Roy, come on, if you're going to do this, get the scan exactly right. Don't take shortcuts. And he was right. I got him lazy. And he knew I could do better. I went back to the drawing board, and the result was funnier and better. David not only held himself to the standard, he would ask his pupils, his friends, everyone around them to be the best that they could be if they could. And when they weren't up to standard, boy, did he have strong opinions about it. Especially the Mets. As he was gradually called, he was there to witness the amazing 1986 miracle. How many people heard that story? Right? He was trenchant and incisive when they failed, with detailed comparisons to iconic players and teams of the past. Did he mention his visits to the Polo Grounds? My son Ian said, Dad likes the Mets, but David loves the Mets. He taught me really what it means to be a baseball player. And of course, it wasn't just baseball history, it was all history. It fascinated David. Musical, geopolitical, anthropological. If it happened, David was fascinated by it, loved to teach you about it, and offered his opinion. David loved musical history, especially music theory, its structure, its order. So now we'll reveal throughout, as you probably noticed, in a poor attempt to imitate the man, we've been going up a scale, starting with C, tonic, or Do. And it's not just a scale, it's actually referencing the very first song I heard David play at Marie's Crisis 30 years ago. You've heard it too, and sung it. If you've heard David play, it's a little ditty about a deer. Like my eulogy, it starts on Do. Tragically, David isn't here to bring us back to Do. His life was halted in its 7th decade, unresolved at T. And that's where I'm going to stop ascending. A literal unfinished symphony lies on his desk. Musicals unworkshopped, unproduced. Wedding knots untied. Lessons untaught. Gigs unperformed. Songs unwritten. Friends, old and new, unguided, unaided, unassuaged. And closer to home, so many days and nights now apart from the love of his life. Sevenths are leading tones. Where does this unhappy one lead? For David, his melody is going to continue to ascend, octaves upward to the infinite. For us, stuck closer to middle C, perhaps in the song, there's one more message for us, the message that David sang every time. You can take its meaning literally as befits a music director, a singing and piano teacher. You can also broaden its scope. As a rabbi, teacher, David might have expounded. He taught us and showed us, by example, how to have compassion, empathy, generosity, how to learn, create, teach, how to live, how to love. With his memory as our inspiration, make a resolution to do these things as best we can. So here we go. Maybe you're gonna have to help me. So this part of the song. Please join me for this part. When you know you stay, you can stay. When you Now, at this point in his arrangement, David would reprise the chorus with the whole crowd singing his heart out, even people who never thought they could sing. If you come by my house later, you're all invited, 132 West 70th Street. We're going to sing the whole thing for real in David's honor. But right now, with David right here, let's just take a moment, and I'd like you to imagine Marie's Crisis, your big sing-along party, or maybe your private singing lesson, or at your cabaret that is coming, or at your wedding party, or maybe just with him, or by yourself. And David's got that big smile on his face, leaning back, leaving. And you can just feel how happy he is that somehow the audience is having an even better time than he is. So here it comes, the final chorus. David always began with a big descending scale. We got right into Do It Here, the last time through. Some people sing the melody, others sing, don't need me, so. Some kids scream out, go, just like the. David's playing complicated filigree along with the chords and the bass. The whole room is tapping their feet. We're drunk. Now, in the back of the room, someone in the crowd who never thought they could sing, and never really tried before, opens their mouth. And they sing too. When they hear how it sounds, they get that smile on their face. I think you all know that. So let's take a moment and silently imagine that final chorus in our minds. When the 16 bars are over, it's going to finish with a big soul do, of course. Music will be above. Debbie, thank you for sharing your incredible name with us. How lucky we all were. Yeah, I love you.
And I'd like to invite Steve Carpenter.
Hello, I'm Steve Carpenter, and yes, I am wearing a leather jacket in the middle of summer. David always laughed at me when I dress up. So, figured what better way than to show that it's memorial, looking like a gay hitman. Somewhere around 1992 or 93. I met David. Our mutual friends, Rob and Jean, worked at store on Christopher Street called the Leatherman. And on Sunday nights, they closed at 9 o'clock. So I would meet them, we'd go over to Cowgirl for dinner, and then we'd mosey in over to Marie's. Well, they had a new piano player that night, it was David. And Rob and Jean and I sat at the bar. There weren't a lot of people there that night. As Sundays could be a little slow. So anyway, David starts playing That's Why the Lady is a Tramp. And David loved to tell us. So Rob and Jean and I, we always did the same thing with the song. It's like, that's why the lady is a tramp. We shout, tramp. And David was taken aback, and he looked over at the bar, and we just, turned around, we kept talking, and so next chorus comes around, and that's why. And anyway, he became very enamored with that, and we began talking. So, and that was the beginning of a very fun friendship. He played at Marie's for many years. And he was really fun. He knew how to play the audience. He knew what the audience liked. He knew he could play off the energy very well. And he adopted some people as his singers and his chorus. etc. So he would occasionally let people do solos, or duets, that type of thing. But he also liked to mess with you. The better you were, the better you understood your music, and the more you had worked with him, he would do some silly things. There was a waiter there by the name of Michael, I won't get his last name. One of the opera singers that came in there nicknamed him the human kazoo. Because you say, like, he had a very kazoo kind of voice. So, and one of his favorite songs was Stairway to Paradise. So he starts singing it, and David, he kept saying, well, take it higher, take it higher. So David's like, okay. So every phrase, David took it up. Another step, not a half step, another step. So by the time we got to the end of it, Michael could barely get through this, and it was hysterical, and everyone was like, but that was the intent. So anyway, I sang a lot with David there. I had been a musician previously. I played oboe for many years, and kind of gave it up when I found out what classical musicians made, and thought IT might be a better idea. So, but I never lost my musicality. David kind of glommed down to that and said, no, you need to use your music. You need to share your music. So they got me back into singing, David and Debbie. They asked me to do some shows with them, and wow, that's a phenomenal thing to do, and we had so much fun together, and then, what else was I going to talk about there? Some of the other things we used to do at Louise, Albert La Diva, who was a soprano, as Roy said, like a 6'2" soprano who could sort of hit a high F. If you know Albert, you know what I'm talking about. So, Albert liked to sing "You Are Love." Yes, he loved Jeanette MacDonald. So early on, there was a man who sang, he was with Metropolitan Opera, named Stanley, and he would come in on the male part and sing "You Are Love" with Albert. And the idea was always, let's make everybody laugh. So, and David was well in tune with that. So Stanley would do things. He came out one time in a pair of boxer shorts with hearts on them. Another time he had gone down to the basement at Marie's, where John Michelle stored all of his Christmas show items, and Stanley came up with a stuffed sheep. And the idea was to crack up Albert. So anyway, we lost Stanley during the AIDS crisis, as we lost many people, unfortunately. So I stepped in. David says, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. So I would sing "You Are Love" with Albert, which was more than interesting. And again, kept trying to make him laugh, try to crack him up. And David would join in and do some various things on the keyboards as well. He would also do things like the beginning of Oklahoma starts with a scale. Well, David would just keep going up the scale. And he would just, and we had a couple of drinks or two that just kind of would just knock you silly. Anyway, so it's just, David was a big part of my life, in my musical life. I studied with him. I did shows with him and with Debbie. I co-directed some things with Debbie. I recruited a lot of new students to him, because if you really needed somebody to teach you the basics and the base of singing, then David was that person, because he could teach you exactly what you needed to do. When I started working with him, he said, what are your goals? What do you want to do with your music? And I thought, okay, let's let's go for the big one. I said, because I didn't think it could ever happen. I said, I can sing Nason Dog, but I can't get the high A. He said, "Ah, don't worry about it." That's David for two. Yeah, sure, don't worry about it. Sure enough, well, within a very short amount of time, we were doing something else, as David liked to do. David liked to squeeze things in to say, look what you just did. Oh, by the way, that's the high A. that you sing in Nason Dog." So he did it. So just a show of hands, how many people here worked with David musically? That's great. So, David, we will miss you. You will be playing the piano in heaven. And David will be joining in and scaring the crap out of all the angels.
I would like to invite Jay King.
For me to be doing this because it seemed like 10, 20 years too early. Honestly, I don't know how many of you know, I'm Jay Kamen. Some of you know me as Uncle Jay. Newer people know my rap name is Jew Jay. But I guess, yeah, he wanted me to speak because other than Bruce, I've known David the longest because I'm the oldest. And I'm so thrilled about that. As David would say, we met in 1972, so what's that, 50 years? We met at Manhattan School of Music. David was 17 years old. He was nervous walking in to this, composition class, theory. And he's like we have all these egghead smart people, and who am I going to be friends with? And there was this kind of dandelion person with a huge two-throw that was bigger than Angela Davis. And sat in the front row, and the teacher said, no, you ain't sitting in the front row, you're blocking everybody's view. And David goes, that's the one I'm going to be friends with. Because that's the one who was like into Broadway musicals like he was. And, again, he became my second brother. We went to see all Broadway musicals and the Mets. We went to see, the Wagner shows with, was it Bridget Nielsen then? Am I showing my age? And Leonard Bernstein was conducting Carmen. Talk about it. Jesus Christ, that's a long time. It's our big, big difference then was, he was into Stephen Schwartz and I was into Sondheim, so that was our big beef. But he became my second brother, and also he was cool because he had an apartment on 66th Street and I lived in Co-op City in the Bronx. So, it's like when we went to the opera, Wagner, go see the Valkyrie, or, you're coming out late and it's like, can I stay over, so I wouldn't have to take the subway and bus to Co-op City. It was nice to have a friend in the city, and sometimes I go with him to Deer Park, and sometimes even went to Co-op City. My brother was deaf, and we used to order movies for the deaf, so I used to order all the musicals for my brother and all of his deaf friends, but they had subtitles. So I was so kind to him. Anyhow, once we graduated, I got thrown out of Manhattan School of Music because they wanted atonal music and I couldn't stand the atonal music, so I had my deaf cat write music. We parted ways. I went to film school, I went to LA, but one day at Paramount, I said, I wonder what ever happened to David Schaefer, and I called, and it was no time passed, and And I met Debbie the first time, and we went to see The Goodbye Girl, a great musical. It's actually a perfect musical. Everything was perfectly wrong. Yes, and she thought I was laughing my head off because it was just so like perfect. And she's like, "Oh, he likes this." Come on, you love that musical. Oh, come on, people were screaming at Bernadette Peters, "You like this costume?" Anyhow, I love the dancing French fry. Yes, but anyhow, but we became, like this kind of like holy threesome. We went everywhere. We went to see the show. Debbie even saw these horrible shows with flying birds. Remember the flying birds at Lincoln Center? Yes, a show with live birds that they let out of the cages and flew around the theater. What was it? 13 Dreams. Yeah, so it was 13 Nightmares. Anyway, but yeah, and it's like over the years, we're talking 50 years. Of course, then I moved to New York, and it's like we barely saw each other. But that's what good friends are, because if you need them, you're always there, no matter what. And so this whole thing is like, this is crazy. This is like so crazy because it's like it went so fast. I didn't even get a call. So David was loved. It's like David and Debbie did like all these recordings when I wrote my musicals, and we did these little demo things. David and Debbie were there. David was playing the songs. David was teaching the music to all the actors. And it's like he touched everybody. My actors, his actors, all the actors. It's like, I don't know anybody, like even in this room, how many people has David touched musically? So, it's like, my story is not as good as yours. I mean, you've got it all, but, you've covered every ground. It's like, wow. Well, like, I don't know what parties are gonna be like without David playing. It's like every party that I've been to with Cara's and Roy's, for New Year's, like before you guys were born, like, wow. I mean, it was the David Dead show. Always. It was crazy. And, it's like, I can't imagine. So anyway, David is loved. David will always be remembered, at least in my mind. I don't remember a time. They even went to my pee party. They flew from New York to LA to go to my pee party when I had a bathroom built in my. Hey, come on, when you have a pee party, if you built a bathroom for $60,000. But Dave. Well, come on, everybody had to go there and pee at least. But anyway, David will be remembered, David will be loved, even the bathroom. But he'll be missed. I don't know what the world's gonna be like without David, but anyway.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Herman.
Hello, everyone. So I'm gonna be reading some things on behalf of David and Debbie's children. We're all their musical children. They knew most of us. I was just calculating it today. I'm one of their latest children of 29 years, because I was calculating exactly what year I was in high school when I met you guys. But there's a bunch of other kids here that they've known them a lot longer. So you guys are always in our hearts, you know that. And we will try to be here, and those who couldn't have reached out and send their love. But they've also had more kids after us from Holy Name. They've also been at St. Monica's, and they've gone to other places, in the Heights Players, Gallery Players. They always took everyone in from everywhere. No questions asked. So the first thing I'm gonna read is from Adam Stroop.
To David, our Goliath. Papa Bear. Monday, the 7th of August, 2023, was apparently your time to quickly transcend to the next plane of existence. If the rumors are true, that time works differently there, no pressure to finish all your compositions and projects. Just write it all down somewhere. Alas, it's quite possible that there's a whole new ball game to learn and play with a brand new Mets roster. Perhaps also, you're no longer allergic to shellfish and cheese. But please keep your signature composure here, if the options allow. For the present, we're sad we couldn't keep you here longer, not least of all for Debbie's sake. But, and this is a big but, the family you've built here will take care of each other until we join you in a Shiva's regal toast. Your family, complete with crazy aunts and uncles, mischievous children, even grandchildren, are now under the benevolent watch of our beloved and favorite redhead, Debbie. No offense, Albert. To us, David, your family, complete with crazy aunts and uncles. Okay. And this was written by your son, Adam Shrew. I'm gonna read one more part of that, okay? I'm sorry, I'm just a little off on this. To us, David, your family complete with crazy aunts and uncles, mischievous children, sons and daughters, even children and beloved matriarchal watch over our favorite redhead Debbie. You haven't died, for a person only truly dies when you are forgotten. Our job now is to enliven and enrich your legacy until you reach immortality. I hope you can hear these words, see our faces, and smile with contentment in your heart. For just look at what we've made. Your son, Adam Shrew. Our second one is from Tamara Hayes. It's hard for me to find the words about David Schaefer's passing. He wore so many hats in my life. He was my vocal coach and my musical director. He was my accompanist, sharing the stage with me for so many years and supporting me with his heavenly playing. He was the rabbi at our wedding, and his autograph graces our ketubah. Most of all, he was my advocate and friend. He was a second father to me, as well as many other young singers and musicians. He and Debbie Burdett took us in like their lost boys. David's generosity is unmatched. I look to David for guidance and validation. His "okay, cookie" before every run brought me so much joy. His confident nod before every musical entrance, and his proud beaming smile after every last note will forever be etched in my memory. David, you are loved. Every memory I have of you has always been and will always be a blessing. That's from Tamara Hayes. And the final one is from Michael Patrick. Tikkun Olam is a concept in Judaism which refers to various forms of action intended to repair and improve the world, leaving the world better than we found it. I didn't know how it was supposed to work. I was told I should be in a choir, so I just showed up to the next practice. He didn't turn me away. He didn't say, well, there are auditions on such and such days. David said, well, you're here now, so sit in the bass section and we'll figure it out where you belong from there. He didn't question whether I should be there. He accepted that I was there, and if so, there must be a reason. We made music together for nearly 2 decades. I slept on his couch, I cried on his shoulder. He counseled, advised, hugged, argued, laughed heartedly, and gave me that signature smiling frown whenever I was ridiculous, which was often. He gave it to me. So. I looked through my pictures, then I looked through all of yours. And I discovered that in just about all of them, David is smiling as though he found a hidden treasure. That's how he saw us. No matter our background, our education, our spirituality, what we did for a living, he saw something in us that excited him. We hear a lot about his talents, and rightly so. But his most important talent was in finding and surrounding himself with wonderful people, wonderful like himself, bright and interesting and interested like himself. He taught me what a chosen family means. We are his family. He adopted us and nurtured us and lent us his significant talents to show us that we are all artists. We all have talents to contribute to the great music of life. David had a gift of inclusivity, and that's something we carry on in his name. We can share the talents he helped foster in us and nurture and encourage others to share theirs. We are all notes in his symphony, which is never finished. It just goes on. It all goes on. Michael, the errant son. So I'd like to say one thing on behalf of everybody that's known him. He gave us all our musical talent and fostered it. Some of us had some musical talent before, but he really helped us develop it. He helped us love everyone unconditionally, exposed us to many things in the world that were adult, that for us not to be afraid to love and accept one another. I have friends that are family that are here, some that I haven't seen in many years, but I love you. I've always been told you're my family. Steve, Uncle Jay, I've known as Uncle Jay ever since I was a kid. And I will always love him. There's no words I can say that David, I think he was a great writer and he said many good things. He did a show called Stars, which we tried to do. And I'm just gonna tell you some of the words that's about us musically. And I will try to sing it, but I haven't sung in a long time. For the dream is all you need. Let us take you where the road will lead, where your fears and doubts goodbye. As you wave your light across the sky, all it takes is great desire and a dream to set the world on fire. For no matter who you are, you can be a star. Love you.
Thank you, everybody who did come up and who did share. For those of you who did not, there will be an opportunity later in voice to please share. And you can keep the beautiful stories, memories, thoughts, feelings going on. I want to thank everybody who did. I would like to take just a very short 30 seconds for any silent meditation that you would like to have, any silent conversation you would like to have from your heart, your spirit right now in this moment. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable before you, Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. For David's love that united each one of us in life, death cannot sever. For his companionship that we share along life's path, which continues through the tenderness of his memory. For the gifts of David's heart, his mind, his character, his music, which brought us joy, happiness. It is now our most precious, precious memory. For all of these and much more than I can say, we give our thanks. In times of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures. And we listen to these scriptures both in times of joy and in times of sadness, in times of blessing, and in times of sorrow, in times of loss. And I'd like to share some Hebrew of the most famous Tehillim song, the 23rd Psalm. And afterwards, after I do some Hebrew, I would like that we could go over to the program and we could all read it together in English, please. Please read together the faithful song. The Lord is my shepherd, God wants. He makes the cloud and he brings pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He leads for my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for the day. Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thy prayers, they will warm me in the presence of my enemies, and I will enter my head with the Lord. Lord, and then we'll proceed. I will do the Hebrew, but the following page, the Kelmale Rachamim, and we'll read it together in English after I do the Hebrew. Kelmale Rachamim, Shokim, Bamromim, Amsei, Menucha, Nechona, Achante, Hashkina, Bama'alot, Kedushim, Uporim, Ejopar, Harakiya, Metshalim, Et Nishmat, David ben Eliezer, Shehelak le Olmo, Me'avur Shavli, Meder, Eten, Zebekah, Ba'ad, Haskarat, Nishmato, Began Eden, Tehei, Menuchato, Lachaim, Ba'al, Barachamim, Yashtirei, Beseter, Kenapa, Le Olamim, It's Lord. It's Lord, Hachayim et Nishmato Adonai U Nachalato V'Yanuach V'Shalom Al Mishkato Enomah Amen. If we could please continue in the English.
I will hear the well.
And before we read we remember them, there's a short poem that Debbie and I thought would be appropriate. It's a poem by Violet. After my death, mourn me thus. There was a man, and see, he is no more. Before his time, his life was ended, and the song of his life was broken. Oh, he had one more melody, and now that melody is lost forever. Lost. We remember them by Sylvan Canaan and Rabbi Jack. At the rising sun and at its going down, we remember them. If we can responsibly, please remember them. So I'll start again. At the rising sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of the autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy, we yearn to share. For as long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we live. And then I'll read the Hebrew from Psalm 121. I will lift up my eyes to the mountains, and then I'll invite Tom Levy to come. Here lama alot esa einan el hecharim me'ayin yavo esli me'in Adonai usei shemayim ba'aretz. Al yiten lamot ba'aglati al yanum shomrati. Hine lai anu below in Ishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomer Echad Adonai Selchan Al Yad Hine Enacha Imam Hashemet Lo Hayaka Vayarek Eilam Adonai Yishmacha Yishkala Yishmor Adonai Yishmor Zechah Ubolecha Me'ascha Be'ar Olam. If we could, I'd like to invite you. Thank you.
I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forever.
And now I would like to invite everybody to rise. We will recite. I would like to invite everybody to have a seat. Because I know it's happening, I turn the page to stuff. And we are, I would like to invite Suitcase to come forward and bless us with Mishaberach by Debbie Friedman.
If you know this, I can probably sing it on because I'm not sure I can get through it.
And now that we practiced it, and we did it really well. One more time, please rise. And we will do Mortar's Cottage both in Hebrew and in English. And before we started, I would like to do a little preamble leading up to Give the Dawn, which is in this hour that we're here in our love for artist Rabbi David Schaefer. We cherish the years that were spent together, the melodies, the notes of music, the notes of love, the notes of kindness and tenderness, the notes of relationship. We cherish those years that were spent together and what type of memories of our times together. Well, Lord, heal the hearts of your loved ones and embrace and strengthen each one of us during this time of grief, this time of loss. And now, please. Give all, use God, Be on God, your God, through the day, like our day. The guy at home, the home, who's I gave, made this right now. I can love, be smart, I believe, you, I mean. Yeah, age, and I love, be. They love, they are my young. Yes, but I love, yes, I love, yes, yes, I say. Yes, I love, yes, I name, yes, they allow them both get to our top, they share our top, to do our top, the next one on top. Yeah, I'm not to be a lot of people. Hey, yeah, age, higher. Then I need to think of their soul and start out and leaving. Hey, so they don't know people. We have to say, oh, the later they are almost get spread out, being, they. And then together we just please. May God's great name be magnified. May God establish the reign of justice and peace forever in our life. And in my lifetime, Israel, and let us stay now. May God's great name be magnified. May the name of the Holy One be blessed, glorified, exalted, extolled, honored, magnified, celebrated. Even the past, beyond all blessings, songs, praises, and consolations that are spoken in the book. And let us stay on peace from heaven, light of us, all of your and let us stay on it. May the divine peace speaks to the heavens, may peace for us, and the Holy Spirit, and let us stay on it. Thank you. There are two more readings that I would like to share with you. God, you gave us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, and you make them the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft in a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort, the sorrow laden for consolation. Oh God, we see light as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love, the dwelling place of your joy. May the memory of David Ben Eliezer, I'll do Hebrew, or David Ben, may the memory of David endure among us is a blessing. In your own time, O God, when we too are called to enter eternity, may we leave this life secure in the faith that in your light, we too shall see light. In life and in death, we cannot go where you are not. In where you are, hope endures. Sustained by this assurance, we invoke your name. O God of life, amid the ceaseless tides of change will sweep away the generations. Your love remains to comfort us and to give us hope. Around us are life and death, decay and renewal, the flowing rhythm that all things do obey. Our life is a dance to a song we cannot hear. Its melody pushes through us for a little while. Then it seems to cease. Whence the melody and whither does it go? In darkness as in light, we turn to you, the source of life and the answer to all its mysteries. And before we do one last announcement about Shiva, what have you, I'm going to do an unusual benediction. instead of doing the normal closing. I would like to invoke, and you'll find out the melody, 4 angels in the spirit of God. And why 4 angels? Angels that are in contact and receiving the Neshama of David, as well as coming to bless us. Raphael to bring us healing. Michael to show the beautiful blessings in our life. Gabriel to give us strength during difficult points and sad times. And then, of course, Uriel to light our way as we walk through life. And then the Shekinah, which is the Spirit of God. Hashem Elohei Yisrael, Mimi Mechayel Mismori Gabriel, Umilfaneinu Inel, Umeakere Raphael, Voroshi, Voroshi, Shekinah, Hashem, Hashem Elohei Yisrael, Mimi Mechayel Mismori Gabriel, Umelfaneinu Inel, Umeakere Raphael, Voroshi, Voroshi, Shekinah. And now that we are surrounded by angels in the Spirit of God, I would like to invite Roy to come forward to share again a few words of details about sugar, please.
You're all invited to find us at 132 West 70th Street, that's between Columbus and Broadway on the south side, and the lower entrance, please. We'll have some refreshments. A lot of food is David Potter. A little bit of memories, some videos, and photos of David. Some more stories of various types, and of course, as I know David Potter's music and joy that we love all. Scott, then you what? Good to see you. It is. I think both of them. Oh, my grandparents. Oh my God. It's like you're you guys
Well, it's a. Fly south with again, everybody gets. Then. Down next to the college. That's we have. James City. It's so bad. And kind of lady, I don't know if they ever sent her names. I was studying from online and then I will. And right now, you yeah. I'm talking about yes. And I'm saying yes, no. We're on Long Island. Oh, sorry. I was 6 now. My dad is a Macon restaurant in Bayside, right by the train station. All right.